Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. I am the Custard Prophet and welcome to this first look video where we're looking at this game here, Skyhaven, which was being developed by Real Welders and was released in November 2022, so not been out very long at all. This type of game is one that I really enjoy. It's essentially an airport building and management simulation game, and I've been threatening to put a similar game onto the channel for quite some time, but I wasn't aware of this game, and it popped up on Steam, and thought we would have a little look at it. So these first look videos, what I am planning to do is to do a few more of these on random games, maybe 2 or 3 each month, because I think this might be a nice way to draw new people into the channel. And if you are one of these new people coming to have a look at this game, well, welcome along to the channel, and if you like what you see, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Right, let's dive in. So yeah, Skyhaven is essentially an airport building and management simulation game. You'll need to build all of the infrastructure in the airport, manage air traffic, the airline contracts, the other types of contracts that exist within the game, all the arrivals and departures, all of that sort of stuff, as well as building your airport empire and making money, of course, along the way, as all Tycoon games are need you to do. As I said, this is a style of game that I really enjoy. The game that I've played in the past that relates to this is the absolutely iconic game, which is the yardstick, I think, for all games like this, Airport CEO. And if you've not played that, I can't recommend that game enough. Hopefully I'll be able to bring that to the channel in a Let's Play at some point in the future, because I've been itching to do that. But Skyhaven falls in that bracket. It's newer, and I'm really excited to see what this has got for it. Now, before we get into the actual review of the game, I think it's important to say that unfortunately there are issues with this game. There are bugs within the game, and the developers have had a lot of issues trying to sort those bugs out, so much so that they've actually, as of I think this month or maybe last month, decided they're not going to continue to support the game. So what you buy will be what you get, and there are bugs present. That seems a reason to switch off this video right now, but actually I don't feel those bugs are game breaking. They are there, and they certainly can affect gameplay, but it's not all encompassing, and it's not going to ruin your save necessarily. On Steam, the game has received very mixed reviews. Some people, though, really like it and have spent many hours playing this game. So there is definitely space for this game to be something that you can play and enjoy, and that's why I thought it would be worth going forward and bringing you some, just a little look at what this game is all about. Let's dive in. I'm going to take my head away because I don't want to get in the way of any of the options that exist on the screen. You can see the full list of things going on. So this is our opening screen. You see it's a nice looking thing. Graphics are fairly simple in this game. It is something I think that might take people away from it. You'll see that more clearly when we get into the map. It is a very sort of simplistic thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Airport CEO, the graphics and that were not amazing, but what it lacked in graphics, it made up for in gameplay. So in the main menu, we can see there's a variety of settings. It's important to say there is a help menu here, and this is a really extensive help menu, so you can get some real detail on all of the bits and pieces here. So I think whilst, as I'll talk about, there are some issues with the tutorial, I think there are some really useful information in this area here, which I think can make up for that. So the options that you have when clicking a new game, you have your tutorial, which is reasonably paced but not always straightforward to follow. And unfortunately, in one part of the tutorial, there's an issue with relocating vehicles, which makes it impossible to move on to the next step. This has been highlighted by various users on Steam, and there are, I think, some really convoluted ways to get around this. but it doesn't seem to work for everyone. I couldn't get past it, so it does mean that you kind of only can get so far in the tutorial, and then you just have to kind of scrap it, which isn't a great thing when you're thinking about a game and trying to learn it. But as I said, you can use that help menu to sort you out. But then there are some other options. So you can either start with a starter plot or an empty plot. And the really cool thing I think about this game is that it actually explores kind of aviation history over the period of from 1916 all the way up until about the early 2000s, which I think is really, really nice. So you can start at any one of these time points, and if you have a starter airport, you'll start with all of the stuff that you need to get going at that particular time point. So 1920, 1940, 1950 or 1970. If you start with an empty plot, it's pretty much the same thing. You've got these kind of time points, but it's the same dates really, with some nice little graphics. The difference is you get to build your own airport from scratch. So the difference between those two is quite small, but it means a starter airport does kind of get you started. I think once you kind of understand how to build an airport, I think most people might move to this empty plot option. Importantly, you can also change your starting balance, so make it easier or harder, up to $65,000 in the bank account, and so the default setting is 25,000. From the gameplay I've done, this seems absolutely fine. And you can then also alter the rate at which the game moves forward. So the further along here you go, basically the faster the game progresses through this timeline. And this all links to what I think is probably the most interesting part of the game, and that's the kind of research track, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So we're loading up a game here that I've already got sorted and I've started. This is the game that I've going, and it's a very simple sort of setup that we've got here. Everything's paused at the minute, and I want to go through the various parts of the UI, but let's just look at the graphics first of all. The game offers fairly simplistic functional graphics. As you can see, this may put some people off. I mean, the grass texture is a little bit and we've got these kind of this. If you go all the way out, you can see we've got a little village down here and a route into your airport there. There is option to sort of expand your map. As you can see, you can buy these zones. I think those things get a little bit more bigger as you get further on, so you can buy, as the time goes past, you can actually buy additional bits and pieces. So you can zoom out, and you can zoom all the way in, and you can sort of click on your plane. You can see where what this plane is, and you've got some nice information here, when the plane's going to arrive, when they're going to depart, as well as where they are in the process of the processes that are supposed to be being done. And obviously you want your planes to arrive on time, i.e. you want to be a space for the plane to arrive, and you want the planes to depart on time. So you want your services to have completed all their jobs by then, so you need sufficient to be able to do that. And we can do the same for all these other assets and look at the information within those assets. So in terms of the UI, we can see around the side there's a variety of bits of information. Down the bottom here we have an ability to kind of looking at the time you are. This is the date we are currently, 2026, and you can see we can speed up gameplay using these buttons down here. And this is kind of important because one, I think, of the issues within this game is certainly in the early stages. Once you've set up scheduling, and we'll talk about scheduling in a second, once you set that up, you do feel like there's not a lot going on. So it's there's kind of a lot of gaps between each of the jobs that you're doing, because everything's kind of been set up. So there is this option down here where you can, if there's nothing else going on in the day, you can sort of really skip forward. But my opinion is none of these particularly go fast enough. There needs to be a way to really kind of speed through this, because when there's no issues, but there's still stuff going on, it takes a lot of time to get through the day, and it's certainly one of the issues. That the pace of the game is one of the issues that I found. Whether that's an issue later in gameplay, if you're sort of in 1970 and there's a lot more, your airport's a lot bigger, maybe not, but certainly at these early stages you're twiddling your thumbs for a lot of the time. So here is our general aviation flight. So before you've actually got scheduling, you can actually come into here and you can say, yeah, I want this guy, I want to get this plane in, and then you'll have the option then to bring this plane to an open space on your airport. At the minute, all of my airport stands have scheduled flights coming into them, so I don't have that option. Up here we can see this is our money, so that's important. So obviously we're wanting to build the amount of cash. We get money through planes coming in, refueling, using our services, so taking cargo off, putting cargo onto the plane, all that sort of stuff. We have here, this is a bit of a weird one. It's kind of it's supposed to be like workflow points according to the help, but it links into the research points. I'm not entirely sure how workflow points and research points differ. They seem to be exactly the same as far as I can tell, but yeah, not a problem. And then you've got some other bits and pieces up here relating to who is in the airport and the number of planes you have. The really important parts within the game are the other bits at the bottom here. So these are the things we can build. So we can build additional facilities, cargo warehouse, fuel barrel stock. So at this stage, we're in the 1920s, we've just got a load of fuel barrels rather than having a sort of big refinery where we can store a huge amount of fuel in tanks. And then we've got a larger fuel barrel stock because we've managed to upgrade that, so we've got the larger option which carries more. I mean, you can see on the right we've got all the information from each of these things. We've now got an ATC, air traffic control tower. That's a recent thing I've researched. Airfield administration. This is important. We'll talk about this in a bit. And then we've got option to put road networks in here, or ramps and runways and things like that, as well as some sort of more decorative bits and pieces that you've got here, rocks and trees and beautiful bits and pieces. And then we've got a demolishing feature, and you can see there's not actually a lot in any of these menus at this point, and that's because we're so early on in the game, and this is part of the problem. There is very little that we can do with all of that. So that's where we are with those. On the bottom right, we've got some sort of more interesting stuff. This is our research that's going on currently. So we've got a base hospitality being researched, 39.4% done. So the pace of research, I feel, is adequate, makes sense. We've also got information on, this is the amount of cargo that we have in our stocks. This is the amount of fuel we have in our stocks, so we are well stocked up. And you can see this is our sort of area. So we've got our cargo warehouse here and our fuel barrel stock there. So we've got a bunch of cargo, bunch of fuel, and within those you can see we've got vehicles that will come out and do the refueling or what have you. Along the bottom we can have a loan. We can go into our cargo management menu, which is here. This shows a depiction of the amount of cargo that we have in our stocks at the minute. This shows the various suppliers who deliver that cargo, so we've set up different contracts. We can organise new contracts, so this is all very nice. It's a nice way of sort of being able to manage that. And we've got the same here with the fuel. You can see here that we are lacking in fuel. I don't understand why this is so low, whether it's a prediction or not. Don't understand that, but anyway, we can add different we can have more fuel contracts, and so we've got various different suppliers, so you can have them cheaper, but they will bring more fuel, that sort of stuff, and you just got to find the best contract for your circumstances. Then we have our scheduling window, so that you have to research scheduling, and as you can see, we have got a bunch of flights that have been scheduled in. Don't really have any more space. I could fit another one here perhaps, but what I'm trying to avoid is having too much going on all at the same time with our ground staff. Otherwise, it might mean that some of these are delayed, and that then you get a fine for delay. So that's all good. And this is a very similar sort of thing that we've got in Airport CEO. Obviously, as you go further in the game, you will be able to extend the times that these things will be able to arrive. But at the minute, this is just cargo planes. You can see here, these are the options here. We haven't unlocked catering. We haven't unlocked passengers yet. And these are all the different things that you can do to these planes and have the services that you can offer. But at the minute, we're not able to do that. And obviously, we need to have contracts. And so we can sign different contracts, and you can see we've got 4 contracts signed for 4 different air companies, and if we look within those, we can see we've got a bunch of these contracts that have been sorted, but then we've got some more here that we could sign up. These are smaller planes, so we're not necessarily going with that. They bring a little bit less cargo. Interestingly, they do want fuel here, so there does seem to be an issue that I've noticed where the scheduled flights do not take any fuel at all, and that seems to be a bit of a bug that's ongoing. So yeah, another little issue with the game, but this all looks really nice. I mean, this is a nice when you get your head around all of this stuff, it works well. Other than the issues we've highlighted, I haven't noticed too many problems here. Right, so the last one that I haven't sort of highlighted is the research menu, and I think this is probably the area that I really enjoy most. And we'll just have a look at that before we just have a look at the gameplay, and I'll put in another airport stand here, and you'll be able to see sort of the process of doing that. And I think then you'll kind of see what goes on, and we'll kind of go forward a day. You'll see how slow things actually are. Like many games in this genre, progress can be advanced through research, and I think this is my favourite aspect of the game. There's an extensive research tree that you can see here across 5 different categories. We have airplane services, passenger services, and this is we're doing at the minute: base hospitality, personnel, construction, and office work. So you can see what we have managed to research. We've got all of these things here, but we don't have all of these other bits here. So what I've really enjoyed is how the research is linked into the timeline of commercial aviation across each of these categories. You go see at the very start here, this is a timeline. We go from the very dawn of aviation, which is in 1916, and we can move all the way out here to the early 2000s, where for some reason, even though this was released in 2022, everything stops. So it's about, 2005 or something like that. But I think we've got some really nice stuff in here. We can see a bunch of different stuff. So when we're looking at aeroplane services, we've got the very basic sort of fuel advances in fuel, from having barrels then to pumping. Then we got fuel tank storage, and then we get our differences in fuel trucks. We get electrical power coming into the equation, and various upgrades that you can see all the way across that, different sort of vehicles that are probably able to take and dispense fuel at different speeds. But it's the same thing across all of these things. You can see what goes on with cargo, air traffic control in all of this. We have, as you can see, the same across here. This is hospitality. So we start with a very basic hospitality, but then we get the airport buses coming in, stairways to help people get onto the plane. We've got luggage trolleys coming through, stairs coming in, and you can see as we go across the various different trucks and bits and pieces just to make life easier. Same for personnel. So this one here is about the development of various the staff within the airport. So there's various things that help those staff work more efficiently, and you can see some of those as we go through, all the way up to safety, construction. And this is kind of about building bits and pieces in the airport. So this is improvement of the paving, which we haven't done yet, on the roads and runways and taxiways, we've got the passenger terminal planning option. So that's a nice thing to have in there, and you can then build your own terminals all the way through here to really upgraded materials for roads and taxiways. And then we've got the office stuff, which is about making our offices more efficient. It's not a huge amount in this particular one, but things like flight planning, even all the way up to office faxing, which is kind of tells you maybe it could get a little bit more advanced than that. I'm not sure. Faxing is the most advanced thing in the world. If we click on each one of these, you get more information. So this will give you a 30% workflow speed up. But as you can see, there's a real impressive amount of research options, and it's all linked to the timeline of aviation. And you're able to advance the research tree in any way you want, which I think will allow you to tailor your airport into the designs that you want it to be. So the research itself is conducted by these clerks, and these are in the administration buildings that I mentioned earlier. So you'll need to have sufficient research points to be able to conduct any one bit of this research. So you can see down here we've currently got 66 research points. This is given to us by 9 clerks. If we increase the number of clerks, this would be $750 a day to do that. This will give us an upgrade of 10 research points, essentially, or these workflow points, however those two things are linked. But it will mean, so currently we are able to do advanced air cargo facilities, but we can't currently research pump fueling because we haven't got enough research points. So we can get that by increasing the amount of clerks that we have in our administration buildings. Obviously, one of the issues that we might have is that our administration building only holds a certain amount of people, so we need to upgrade that as well. So, a nice little dynamic, I think, there. One slight departure from many games that I've played is that you don't spend your research points. So by clicking on one of these and asking to research it, you don't lose the research points, the 22 research points here. It doesn't. It just provides that kind of threshold at which you have the capacity to do the research, which I think is a slightly different way of doing research. The other thing to say is by increasing the number of clerks, we'll speed up your ability to research a certain thing. So if you look at what we're doing now, we are 5 hours and 57 minutes away from completing this base hospitality. When we get this, we will get an early days airport station, which will allow us to do kind of a bit of luggage, passenger stuff. And we'd also get this bus and this thing here, which is a standard type of power vehicle, light, strong, attractive, high-wheeled, high-bodied, simple, efficient, rides like a carriage smoothly and almost noiselessly over both paved streets and the rockiest country roads. Adapted, this is the important, for fuel luggage service, adapted for full luggage service operation. So this is your luggage cart. This, I think, is your passenger cart. And that's where we are with the various different options. I think, as you can see, there is some really nice stuff, particularly in that research area. But let's dive in and just move things on a little bit. You can see what's going on here. We've got very little time is passing by. We will go the quicker area here, and you can see our planes leaving, and off you go. So we've got a couple of planes going out. You should see at some point, here's our luggage trolleys coming in. We'll just slow the game down a little bit. So we've got here our busing ZU 500 here, and it is going to be delivering 10. Here we go. We've got 2 planes coming in at the same time. Obviously this is going to cause a little bit of an issue because we need to be able to fix both of these issues. And you can see here our we're now removing the cargo. This happens fairly slowly, so we can speed this up a little bit. You can see here it comes off. There we go. So They can do, these particular ones can do 9 at a time, so it's full. So it's now going to have to release that and then come back and do the next one. So obviously, if you upgrade to slightly bigger trucks, you're going to be able to do that more efficiently. So you can see all of these are now free. So it's actually going to be quite hard for us to do all this at the same time. So it's just gone back to get that single cargo, and we can see we're now getting some other bits of money coming in with planes landing, and again this guy doing the same job here. Obviously we've got more than one truck doing this, and it's important to do that. This is all linked in over here. So let's pause the game and let's just put in another airport stand. And so we will do this down the bottom here. So we pick up this, we're going to have him coming down here. Now it's not linked in, it tells you, well, we're not linked into the roads, the taxiways. We also need to link the roads up. Maybe these roads could look a little bit different from the taxiway, but here we go. So we'll link the glass road up there. This system's quite nicely, this kind of plug and play system. And here we're going to do the same thing here. It's got, yeah, I quite like that. It allows you to do things kind of symmetrically. So this now isn't linked into any fuel station or cargo stations. So let's do that. Let's link it into over here. So we're going to link this ramp manually. There we go, over there. That's done there. So he will now be able to get cargo sorted out by here, by this one. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing with our fuel. So we're going to link this one manually. So he's going to come in there. So now we have our new stand linked in. We should be able to see its option here on the scheduled flight. So we can just click this now onto scheduled flights rather than general aviation. So there we go. So now we've opened up 4 additional slots. So you can see here that this can do both fuel and cargo. So let's go and see if we can sign a few more contracts to be able to fill this up. So what have we got in here? So these are the things that we want. So we've got here, this is a de Havilland DH50 cargo, 4 to 5 loads. So this is the sort of thing we want. We want to get as much money as we can out of this. So we're going to sign up probably this one, and this one. And then we can just come back here. And what we don't want to do, we want to make this work effectively. So we'll put one in there. Schedule that. One in there. One in there. It does mean we are probably not being as efficient as we possibly could, but if you look up here, this is a nice little feature. We can see that at no time are we impinging too much on some of these pinch points that we can see elsewhere. So that's nice. We're going to get some good money from that. Probably not as good as maybe some of these others, but that should be fine. So got that sorted, and then we can just move on. And we can see the research moving forward. We've got this, I think, starts next day, so I don't think we will be able to. We'll see any aircraft coming into this just yet. Yeah, and we can see here base hospitality will be done in 3 hours and 25 minutes. Will this be done by the end of the day? I think it should be, and then we can choose another area to research and maybe put in our early airport, which will give some more options that I have not you know, this will be new to me. So let's move forward when we get that option. Okay, you can see we're almost there, 99% of the way. You can see also we're doing pretty well in terms of money, but money goes in, money goes out, and obviously this is an important thing to balance out. And so we've had the research completed for base hospitality. So this is going to give us a few things that we need to do now. So finally we've got something we need to do. We need to choose another research thing to cover. I think we don't necessarily want to go beyond that here. Maybe we want to come into airport services. We've also started ramp services. This feels like an important thing to do. So since passing the Aviation Air Commerce Act, Congress has put responsibility for fostering air commerce in federal hands. This has led to the creation and enforcement of new flight safety rules requiring more inspectors and maintenance. So I think getting ramp services, ramp agents out there seems like an important thing to get doing, both in terms of air safety and also just having those, because I think this will start to develop an important area of the airport. So we'll do that. We're already a little way into that at the minute, so we'll look to get that up going. I think one of the things I really like about this, which I haven't mentioned up to now, is just the amount of information, the fact they've actually kind of thought about that, and you get some information about the history of the development of airports and airport services, which isn't necessarily an area that many people necessarily know about, how kind of each of these areas kind of develops over time. I don't know how closely this links into reality, but I think it's a really, really cool thing. Right, the other thing that we want to do is have a look at the new building that we are able to put in. So, well, we can't actually put it in yet because we need, a bit more money. So what I think we'll do, just for the case of this playthrough, we're going to take a loan. We're going to get a £60,000 loan. We don't need that much, surely. We've got to pay £4,000. Jesus. Not going to be able to do that. 2,000. Oh. Right, we'll just do that. And just because I want to see what happens when we get an airport. So let's first of all click on this. So this gives us the option of luggage, boarding and disembarking. So we've now got people into the equation. We might be able to bring in passengers and maybe change some of these cargo only scheduled flights into sort of passenger flights as well. So we've got some details on where we go. So we've paid $9,500 and we're going to be spending $65 a day, I think, on upkeep. So that's all fine. Right, the one thing I haven't been uber clear with how to link this in is, I think this, it wants to be placed in this direction. So we'll do that. Right, so I was a little bit confused. It didn't seem to want to link up with the road here. So I suspect we'll probably want to do something like that. That will link the airport up with the road system. So we can buy a new vehicle here. So baggage gate and the passenger gate. So we can buy a vehicle here and buy a vehicle here. Okay, that's good. Just one vehicle for now. What we can do here maybe is just have a look at the other options that we've got. So we now got the capacity to bring in flights, so luggage, boarding and disembarking. The problem I think we might have is we might not have everything we need to make that happen. Maybe that's an issue that we have. So we have got the or maybe we need staff. I'm not sure. Let me just have a play with this, see if I can make this work. Okay. Now I've managed to make that work. So it's now connected to, it's got both the baggage and the passenger transport services. So let's see if we can buy a contract, sign a contract which will allow us to do that, and then we'll break maybe a couple of these contracts to allow us to bring in some of those passengers. And we'll have a look at that when we get that in. So this is kind of nice. You can see here, yes, we can get boarding, disembarking and luggage, but we don't have this flight check option. This looks like this might be a bit of an issue. This stop at the this looks like it's going to be the thing that stops us actually getting people, because we do not have this flight check option. So what is a flight check station? Let's go and have a look in the research tree whether that's something that we can bring through. Okay, apparently the issue is I need to have ramp services, which is what we've got ongoing. So what I'll do is I'm going to go forward, I'm going to get the ramp services in, we'll build that, and then we'll go from there. So I'll see you in a bit once we've got this ramp services research completed. Right, here we go. We have our ramp services sorted out. Obviously now there's a couple of things that we need to do. We need to figure out what next. So let me have a quick look around, see what seems most sensible. Okay, so here will allow us to have larger trucks, which will allow us to bring, I think, is this going to be cargo as well? No, it's cargo as well, so we will hopefully be able to have cargo trucks that can bring more. So is that 25 pieces minimum? That's or maximum? Or yeah, I don't know. I think that seems a good idea, just to upgrade the size of trucks that we can potentially bring in. So we'll do that. Let's have a look at these ramp services now. So we have these ramp service buildings here. So this, there you go. Ramp services are going to be over here. So we need to buy a vehicle for this, which we will do. There we go. And then we are going to link the ramp service into that one, which is the one that we need it for. Okay, so that should mean, yes, that now we can do aircraft checks. So let's then go over to our contract window, and we should be able to here actually bring through passengers as well. So I'm going to sign this particular one with Sabina, and then we can sign up maybe 4 of these. There we go. And we'll then come back into our scheduling window. I'm going to take these out. And we're going to put these 4. Actually, we'll move this across maybe just a little way. Okay, so it's going to be a busy evening session there. Let's move forward. I want to see what that does, what that looks like now. So I will see you in the next day. Okay, actually, it hasn't gone through to the next day. What is going on here? We are actually seeing it here. So we are having we've had disembarkation of our people. They're boarding currently. There's there is a little bit of a dynamic there, and it is working. So I'm going to move forward to the next one, and we'll see that in real time. Right, folks, so here we go. We have our omnibus here, which is going to collect passengers, and what we should see here is passengers disembarking. We've got this is going to collect luggage. Got 10 pieces of luggage to collect, 10 passengers to collect. And we can see the passengers getting off, going into their little bus thing here, and then that's going to head off to the terminal. And you can see here this is going to come around here. So the passengers are going to get out here. although there's no animation to show that occurring. So yeah, so we now have a fully functional air passenger service ongoing, which we did all on camera, which is very exciting. So you can see we are able to develop this airport quite nicely. We've on camera we went from having just an airport that dealt with cargo and fueling. Now we have now we actually have a commercial airport with people who are coming and going. There's obviously no way for the people to get to this airport. This is what Airport CEO does brilliantly. You have to put in the infrastructure for the passengers to get there, but obviously this might depend on the age of also on the timeline. You know, in 1916, how did people get to the airport? Presumably, was this via bus or what? I'm not entirely sure. So whether that comes later in the game, I'm not certain. But it's a nice feature. So I think my overall thought on this game is that, first of all, it is enjoyable. It is fun. I think the people in the reviews that say this is a game that just doesn't work, it's not very good, I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think this game is broken. I think it works perfectly fine. I think when you compare it to other games in the same genre, it's not as good. There's not enough stuff that happens in the game. There's large periods of time where you're not doing anything. I mean, admittedly, you know, we can't necessarily do anything because we've set all these bits up and we're just kind of letting things go. But there does feel like large periods where you're just kind of twiddling your thumbs, and that's something that could have been improved. But I'm not completely. I don't think this is not worth having a go. If you enjoy airport simulation games, this might be a game that you want to consider if you like the looks of what I've shown here. And it may be that just starting at a later time point in aviation history might be the way to get around most of these things. I think clearly this game has drawn me in, and I've enjoyed the save that I've played, and I'll probably continue to play this save offline. Obviously, one of the things here is that I do like this style of game, so I think if you don't like this style of game, maybe the big gaps in between things happening just might not be for you. Equally, the graphics, they are very, very simplistic. They're alright. You know what? You can understand what's going on. There is a lot of stuff that is shown with the graphics, and you understand what's going on, but it's not as good as many other games. Airport CEO has a similar simplistic style of graphics, but it's clearer what's going on. There's more stuff going on at any one time, so because of that, I think still it's a little bit better there. There are lots of bugs. Not all of these I've seen, so I think there may well be bigger, nastier game-breaking bugs out there. I just haven't encountered them. But from what I have encountered, it's all good. It's all good. And it is hugely frustrating that the developers are no longer looking to support or develop this game. In fact, they have said that they are going to be building another game very similar to this, based on the understanding what they've understood from the development of this game. I think that's disappointing because they've got something really nice here that they could have improved and got better. I mean, it sounds to me like they weren't happy with what they developed, but it's not a bad game. It really is not a bad game. There are some good aspects to it. I really like the research tree and the link to the timeline of aviation and the history of aviation. I think that's really cool. You kind of learn a little bit about how things progressed, and you can kind of do it in your own way, which is rather nice. I just love kind of the ability to kind of design your own airport here. And I think it's really nice that they've got a whole load of ways to do this. Just we need some more options, I think, in these early stages, and those could have been provided by ways to get passengers to the airports and those sort of things. This seems an obvious option, which is kind of done in Airport CEO, and maybe isn't so well done here. So yeah, I think this is kind of a very much stripped back version of Airport CEO. I think if you are looking for a game like this with all the bells and whistles in a game that's really well developed and done nicely, and you've not played anything like this before, Airport CEO is what you'd go with. This is a game that is perfectly serviceable, and I think you will enjoy it. You will enjoy working through the research tree and sort of learning a little bit about this. You're just going to sort of sit here quite a lot thinking, well, not much is going on, which is a shame. So I guess in my overall view that whilst this isn't Airport CEO, this is still a reasonably good game, and I'd probably give it about 5.5 out of 10, something like that, because there's still enough going on in this game to keep me interested and engaged, just not quite enough. Hopefully you found that review useful. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel. We'll hopefully be doing a few more of these reviews on other similar simulation games in the future, so keep an eye out for those. However, if you do like other airport related games, why not try this little playthrough I did in Airport Tower 3D, which is a air traffic control simulator game, which is epic. Right, see you in another video very soon. Goodbye.